Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi for Friday, February 21st, 2025. We're in Sanhedrin 66. So, it says that, so we left off talking about different types of sorcerers, enchanters, diviners, and stuff like that. And we're gonna end with that a little bit, and then we're gonna jump into another Mishnah. So it says here, the term is also referring to one who says to a collector of charity, "Do not collect for me first, as that is a bad sign for me," or "Do not collect for me now, because it is morning. It is a bad sign to begin a day with a loss," right? Or "Do not collect for me now, because it is the new moon, so it's a bad sign to begin a new month with a loss." Or "It is the conclusion of Shabbat, and I do not want to begin the week with a loss," right? So we don't do this kind of things. Charity is actually an extremely, extremely important tool for the world. So, and the other problem is that if you see in that mentality, that mochin, that mentality is the person that those words are that they're expecting this loss, but in reality, the charity is not the loss. The charity is the gain, right? It looks like it's the other way. It's like you're putting something on the scale, but you're putting it from the bottom up, and you're like, it's the opposite, right? So the sages taught in the verse, nor shall you practice divination nor soothsaying. Leviticus 19, verse 26. It's referring, for example, to those who divine and receive guidance according to what happens to a weasel, to birds, or to fish. That's specifically soothsaying. So, we're starting another Mishnah. This one says, we're back to the Mishnah. It says, also liable to be executed by stoning is one who desecrates Shabbat by performing a matter that is for its intentional performance, one who is liable to receive karet, so spiritual excision, and for unwitting performance, one is obligated to bring a sin offering. So back to the Gemara. The Gemara says, by inference here, there is another matter that is a desecration of Shabbat, and it is prohibited by the Torah but for its unwitting performance, one is not obligated to bring a sin offering, nor does one receive karet, or spiritual excision, for its intentional performance. Otherwise, the statement in the Mishnah, the one is liable for desecrating Shabbat for performing an act for which one receives karet, or is obligated to bring a sin offering, would have been superfluous. The Gemara asks, what is the labor activity that desecrates Shabbat, but whose punishment is not so severe? The Gemara answers, it is a prohibition against going outside the Sabbath boundaries, which are 2,000 cubits beyond a person's location at the beginning of Shabbat. And it is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who holds that although it is a Torah prohibition, one is neither obligated to bring a sin offering for violating it unwittingly, nor liable to be executed for violating it intentionally. Alternatively, it may be referring to the prohibition against kindling a fire on Shabbat, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yoshi, who holds that contrary to other labors prohibited on Shabbat, this act is not punishable by stoning by lashes. Not punishable by stoning, but by lashes. So now we're back to the Mishnah. It says, one who curses his father or his mother is not liable to be executed by stoning unless he curses them with the name of God. If he curses them with an appellation of the name of God, Rabbi Meir deems him liable, and the rabbis, so the majority, deem him exempt. So back to the Gemara. It says, who are the rabbis mentioned here? It is Rabbi Menachem, son of Rabbi Yoshi, as it is taught in Braita, that Rabbi Menachem, son of Rabbi Yoshi, says, the verse states, and he who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him, the convert as well as the homeborn. When he blasphemes the name, he shall be put to death. Leviticus 24:16. Why must the verse state the name a second time, which appears to be a superfluous repetition? This term taught concerning one who transgresses other prohibitions of cursing, that is, one who curses his father or his mother, that he is not liable to be executed by stoning unless he curses them with the name of God. If he merely uses an appellation, he is exempt. The sages taught, so that's the majority, the verse, Leviticus 20, verse 9, could have stated merely for a man, ish, that curses his father and his mother shall be put to death. He has cursed his father and his mother. His blood shall be upon him. Why must the verse state for any man, ish? Repeating the term ish. It is to include not only a son, but also a daughter, one who's basically of undetermined gender, a tum-tum, and a hermaphrodite. So when the verse states that curses his father and his mother, I have derived only his liability for cursing both his father and his mother. From where do I derive that if one curses his father but not his mother, or his mother but not his father, that he is liable? The continuation of the verse states, his father and his mother he has cursed. His blood is upon him. In the first part of the verse, the word curses is in proximity to his father. And in the last part of the verse, it is in proximity to his mother. This teaches that the verse is referring both to a case where he cursed only his father and to a case where he cursed only his mother. This is the statement of Rabbi Yoshia. Excuse me. Rabbi Yonatan says, there is no need for this derivation because the phrase, his father and his mother, teaches that one is liable if he curses both of them together. And it also teaches that he is liable if he curses either one of them on their own, unless the verse specifies that one is liable only when he curses both together, which it does not do in this case. From the phrase, quote, shall be put to death, it is derived that his punishment is execution by stoning. The Baraita asks, do you say that they are executed by stoning, or is it rather by one of all the other types of death penalties stated in the Torah? The Baraita answers, it is stated here, his blood shall be upon him, as it is stated below with regard to a necromancer and a sorcerer, they shall be put to death, they shall stone them with stones, their blood should be upon them. So they're saying that that phrase, their blood shall be upon them, is referring to stoning. So Leviticus 20, verse 27. So just as there, the verse states that a necromancer and a sorcerer are executed by stoning, so too here, with regard to one who curses his father or his mother, he is executed by stoning. The Baraita asks, we have learned the punishment of one who curses his parent. From where is the prohibition against doing so derived? The verse states, you should not blaspheme judges. It uses the word Elohim, nor curse a king of your people. Exodus 22:27. If this father was a judge, cursing him is included in the prohibition of you should not blaspheme judges, as it is prohibited for all people to curse a judge. And if his father was a king, cursing him is included in the prohibition of nor curse a king of your people. If he is neither a judge nor a king, from where is it derived that it is prohibited to curse him? One can say you derive it through a paradigm arrived at from both of them as follows. The defining characteristic of a king is not like the defining characteristic of a judge, and the defining characteristic of a judge is not like the defining characteristic of a king. And the two cases are dissimilar. The Baraita elaborates, the defining characteristic of a judge is not like the defining characteristic of a king, as with regard to a judge you are commanded with regard to obeying his halakhic ruling. This is not like the defining characteristic of a king, with regard to whose halakhic ruling you are not commanded to obey. And the defining characteristic of a king is not like the defining characteristic of a judge, as regard to the king you are commanded with regard to rebelling against him, that is, refusing to obey his order. This is not like the defining characteristic of a judge, as you are not commanded with regard to rebelling against him. The common denominator is that they are of your people. That is, they are members of the Jewish people and you are prohibited from cursing them. I too will include the case of your father as he is of your people, and therefore you are prohibited from cursing him. Let's do this. This derivation is insufficient, and what is notable about their common denominator, that is another element they are shared in common. It is noteworthy that their prominence has caused them to be entitled to an exceptional degree of respect. They are not merely of your people. Therefore, perhaps the prohibition against cursing applies only to such prominent figures. The Baraita continues, consequently, a third case is necessary to arrive at the required paradigm. The verse states, you shall not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind. Leviticus 19:14. The verse speaks of the wretched of your people. From the fact that it is prohibited to curse even those people, it can be derived that it is prohibited to curse anyone. Deriving this halacha from the case of a deaf person who is also insufficient, as what is notable about the case of a deaf person? It is notable in that his deafness has caused cursing him to be prohibited. Perhaps the only reason it is prohibited to curse him is that he is deaf, just as it is prohibited to mislead the blind. One can respond, the prohibition against cursing a king and a judge can prove that it is prohibited to curse anyone, as it is prohibited to curse them even though they are not wretched. And if the proof from these cases is rejected, as one can claim that what is notable about a king and a judge is that their prominence has caused them to be entitled to this respect, then the prohibition against cursing the deaf can prove that prominence is not a determining factor. And the inference has reverted to its starting point. At this point, the halacha is derived from a combination of the three cases. The defining characteristic of this case, that is, that of a ruler and a judge, is not like the defining characteristic of that case, that of a deaf person. And the defining characteristic of that case is not like the defining characteristic of this case. Their common denominator is that they are of your people, and you are prohibited from cursing them. I too will include the case of your father, who is of your people, and therefore you are prohibited from cursing him. The Baraita refutes this determination. What is notable about their common denominator? It is notable that they are unusual, that is, they are not common people, but they are in some way different from others. Perhaps there is no prohibition against cursing an ordinary person. So rather, this proof is insufficient, and the Baraita states a different explanation. So if it is so, that it is prohibited to curse that if it is prohibited to curse only unusual people, let the verse write either that it is prohibited to curse judges and the deaf, or that it is prohibited to curse a king and the deaf. And it would have been derived from these two cases that the prohibition applies to all unusual people. Why do I need the verse to state a special prohibition with regard to judges? It is superfluous, as judges are also extraordinary people. Rather, if the verse is not intended for its own matter, if the verse is not needed for its own matter, that is, a prohibition against cursing judges, apply it to the matter of cursing one's father. So the Gemara asks, this works out well according to the one who says that in the verse you shall not blaspheme Elohim, meaning judges. Exodus 22 verse 27. The word Elohim is non-sacred, as it is referring to judges. But according to one who says that the word is sacred, as it is referring to God, what can be said? If the verse is not superfluous, as it is needed to state a special prohibition with regard to God, how is the prohibition against cursing one's parents derived from it? It is taught in a Baraita. The word Elohim in this verse is non-sacred. This is the statement of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Akiva says the word Elohim is sacred, and it is taught in a different Baraita that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, from where is the prohibition against one who blesses the name of God, meaning curses the good name of God? That's a euphemism. Derived. Where's that derived? The verse states, you should not blaspheme God, or Elohim. The Gemara answers, according to the one who says that Elohim is non-sacred, he derives the prohibition according to the sacred meaning of the word from the non-sacred meaning. That is, he derives the prohibition against cursing God from the prohibition against cursing judges. According to the one who says that Elohim is sacred, we derive the prohibition according to the non-sacred meaning of the word from the sacred meaning. That is, he derives the prohibition against cursing judges from the prohibition against cursing God. The Gemara asked, granted, according to one who says that Elohim is non-sacred, he can derive the prohibition according to the sacred meaning of the word from the non-sacred meaning through an a fortiori inference. But according to the one who says that Elohim is sacred, can he derive the prohibition according to the non-sacred meaning from the sacred meaning? Perhaps the Torah renders it prohibited to curse God in accordance with the sacred meaning of the word, but it does not render it prohibited to curse Elohim, judges, in accordance with the non-sacred meaning. The Gemara answers, if so, if it is prohibited to curse God but not judges, let the verse write, you shall not treat lightly, takel, instead of you shall not blaspheme, takalel. It would have been derived from this wording that it is prohibited to demean or curse God. So what halacha can be derived from the seemingly superfluous second letter, lamed, which renders the expression, you shall not curse, tekalel? Conclude from it that this expression includes two prohibitions, a prohibition against cursing God and a prohibition against cursing a judge. The Mishnah. One who engages in intercourse with a betrothed young woman is not liable to be executed by stoning unless she is a young woman that is neither a minor nor an adult, so a virgin, betrothed but not yet married, and she lives in her father's home, having yet to move in with her husband. If two men engaged in intercourse with her, the first is liable to be executed by stoning, and the second is liable to be executed by strangulation. The second man is executed in this manner in accordance with the halacha of one who engages in intercourse with a married or non-virgin betrothed woman, as she is no longer a virgin when he engaged with her. Okay. The sages taught This is the Gemara. I'm sorry, that was a Mishnah. This is now the Gemara. The sages taught with regard to the conditions stated in the Mishnah. The punishment of stoning applies only if the woman is a young woman, a category that applies until she is approximately 12 and a half years of age, but not a grown woman. She must be a virgin, but not a non-virgin. She must be betrothed, but not married. She must be living in her father's house, excluding a case where the father transferred his daughter to the husband's agents. So, I'm trying to think of a good example how to describe what that would be, but basically, if you were from a different country and you sent like servants or somebody that was your messenger to acquire this person as a bride and go to another land or something like that would probably be a good example of that. So his daughter to the husband's agents to bring her to her husband's home for the purpose of marriage. In such a case, even though she is not arrived there yet, she is already considered a married woman according to halacha, right? Because there's already a marriage arrangement, right? So Rav Yehuda says that Rav says, this Mishnah is the statement of Rabbi Meir, who holds that the halacha of a betrothed young woman applies to a young woman of the intermediate age between minority and adulthood. But the rabbis say even a minor is included in the term a betrothed young woman. Only a grown woman is excluded. So Rav Achav Difti said to Ravina, from where is it indicated that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, and the specification that she must be a young woman is not only to the exclusion of a grown woman, but also to the exclusion of a minor girl? Perhaps the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis, and the condition, meaning the majority, and the condition that she must be a young woman is to the exclusion of a grown woman and nothing more. Accordingly, one who engages in intercourse with an engaged minor girl is liable to be executed by stoning. Ravina said to him, this expression in the Mishnah is not liable unless she is ad sheteh. What is it? Hold on a second. Ad sheteh, a young woman, a virgin, betrothed, does not suit your suggested explanation. If the Mishnah is merely excluding a grown woman, it should have stated is liable only for engaging in intercourse with a young woman who is a virgin and betrothed. The expression ad sheteh indicates until she becomes, that is, this halacha does not apply until she reaches the age of a young woman. And there is nothing more to be said on the matter, as this is clearly the intention of the Mishnah. Okay. Rabbi Yaakov bar Ada asked Rav, in the case of a man who engaged in intercourse with a betrothed minor girl, what is the halacha according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir? Does Rabbi Meir exclude him from the punishment entirely, or does he exclude him merely from stoning, but he is executed by strangulation, like one who engages in intercourse with any other married woman? Rav said to him, it stands to reason that Rabbi Meir excludes him from stoning alone, but he is liable to be executed by strangulation. Okay, Rabbi Yaakov bar Ada raised an objection to this answer. But isn't it written, if a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they shall both die, the man who lies with the woman and the woman, Deuteronomy 22:22, indicating that this punishment does not apply unless they are both equally subject to punishment? If so, one who engages in intercourse with a betrothed minor girl is exempt, as she is not halakhically competent. Rav remained silent and did not answer him. Shmuel says, what is the reason that Rav remained silent? Why not say to Rabbi Yaakov that his premise is repudiated by the verse? Quote, but if the man finds the betrothed young woman in the field, and the man takes hold of her and lies with her, then the man who lay with her alone shall die. Deuteronomy 22:25. This verse proves that the punishment of stoning applies to the man even if the woman is exempt. The halacha of a man who engages in intercourse with a betrothed minor should be the same. The Gemara answers that this matter is subject to a dispute between Tanaim, as it is taught in a Braita. So the Tanaim are from the Mishnah. As it is taught in a Braita, the verse states, then they shall both die, Deuteronomy 22:22, indicating that this halacha does not apply unless they are both equally subject to punishment. If one of them cannot be punished, that is because he or she is a minor, and the other is not executed either. This is the statement of Rabbi Yoshia. Rabbi Yonatan says that the phrase from the verse, quote, then the man who lay with her alone shall die, end of quote, indicates that in some cases only one of them is liable to receive the death penalty. The Gemara asks, and what does the other Tana, Rabbi Yonatan, who holds that this punishment applies even if only one party is subject to punishment? What does he derive from the verse? Then they shall both die. Rava says that the verse is stated to exclude an act of sharpening or engaging in sexual activity with the woman without the typical manner of intercourse. So, since the man and the woman do not equally receive pleasure from such an act, it is not considered intercourse and they are exempt. In the other Tana, Rabbi Yoshia holds that an act of sharpening is nothing. There is clearly no liability for such an act, and it is unnecessary to derive this halacha from the verse. The Gemara asks, and what does the other Tana, Rabbi Yoshia, who holds that they must be equally subject to punishment, derive from the verse? Quote, then the man who lay with her alone shall die. The Gemara answers, he derives another halacha, as it is taught in a Braita. If 10 men engaged in intercourse with a betrothed young woman, and she is still a virgin, as they engaged in unnatural way with her, they are all liable to be executed by stoning. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, the first of them is executed by stoning, and all the rest of them are executed by strangulation. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi derives from the phrase in the verse, quote, then the man who lay with her alone shall die, that although the woman is still a virgin, only one man can be executed by stoning for engaging in intercourse with her. The others are executed by strangulation in accordance with the halacha of one who engages in intercourse with a married woman or a betrothed non-virgin. And the sages taught, the verse states, and the daughter of any priest, if she profanes tehel herself by playing the harlot, she profanes her father, and she shall be burned with fire. Leviticus 21, verse 9. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says that the word tehel means first, or tehila. And likewise it says, then the man who lay with her alone shall die. Deuteronomy 22:25. The Gemara asks, what is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi saying? Rav Huna, son of Rav Yehoshua, says, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael, who says that only the betrothed daughter of a priest is singled out for execution by burning, but not one who is married. A married daughter of a priest who commits adultery is executed in the same manner as other women who commit adultery. And this is what Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is saying. If a woman's first act of intercourse occurs when she committed adultery, as she is still betrothed, she is executed by burning. In another case, if she is already married, and this is not the first time she engages in intercourse, she is executed by strangulation. The Gemara asks, what is the meaning of the end of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's statement? And likewise it says, quote, then the man who lay with her alone shall die. What is the relevance of that verse to this issue? The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi means to say that the halacha here in the case of a betrothed young woman who is the daughter of a priest is like there, just as there, with regard to a betrothed woman, young woman who is not the daughter of a priest, the verse speaks of her first intercourse. Here too, the verse speaks of her first intercourse. Okay, so Rav Bevai bar Abaya. Rav Bevai bar Abaya said to Rav Huna, son of Rav Yehoshua, my master does not say, that is, does not explain the statement of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi like that. The Gemara comments, and who is his master? Rav Yosef. Rather, he explains the statement of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi as follows. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says in the case of the daughter of a priest who married one of the men unfit for her, so a mamzer, and committed adultery while married to him, her death sentence is administered by strangulation and not by burning. And this is what Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is saying. If she first profanes herself, disqualifies herself from the priesthood by committing adultery, she is executed by burning. But in another case where she was already disqualified from the priesthood by marrying a man unfit for her, like a mamzer, she is executed by strangulation. And what is the meaning of the end of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi's statement? It says, and likewise it says, then the man who lied with her alone shall die. And that is the end of 66.